You don't belong here. This is for real executives, not diversity hires. The security guard's meaty hand pressed against Damon Washington's chest, blocking his path to the VIP entrance of Chicago's most exclusive corporate mixer. The 45-year-old executive, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, stumbled backward as Tyler's push sent him off balance. Around them, white executives in $1,000 suits pulled out their phones. Some filmed, others whispered, a few smiled. Damon steadied himself, brushing lint from his jacket. His leather briefcase caught the light, revealing a discreet corporate logo most wouldn't recognize. His Patek Philippe watch glinted as he adjusted his cufflinks. "Sir, I'm going to need you to use the general admission entrance," Tyler continued, arms crossed. "This section is reserved." Damon's voice remained steady. "I see. Have you ever been judged by the color of your skin in a room full of people who should have known better?" The digital event board above the platinum entrance flickered. "VIP networking session, 47 minutes remaining." Tyler adjusted his radio, speaking louder than necessary. "Rebecca to platinum entrance. We have a situation." Manager Rebecca Carter appeared within seconds, her blonde hair pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes swept over Damon with practiced disdain. She spoke slowly, loudly, as if addressing someone who couldn't understand English properly. "I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding," she said, her smile sharp as glass. "General admission has wonderful networking opportunities, too." Damon pulled out his invitation, the gold embossing catching the light. "My invitation clearly states platinum access." Rebecca barely glanced at the card. "Sometimes people receive invitations by mistake. Corporate mix-ups happen all the time." Nearby, Maya Rodriguez, a lifestyle influencer with 50,000 followers, raised her phone. She'd been documenting the evening's luxury for her audience. Now something far more compelling was unfolding. "Y'all seeing this?" she whispered into her camera. "They literally won't let this black man into VIP. This is happening right now at the Meridian Hotel." Her follower count ticked upward as viewers joined the live stream. Comments began flooding in, a mixture of outrage and ugly agreement. Tyler stepped closer to Damon, his bulk creating a wall. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside. You're blocking access for our actual VIP guests." Behind them, 3 white executives in expensive suits watched with obvious amusement. One, a man with silver hair and a Rolex, chuckled to his companion. "Finally, someone's checking credentials properly." His friend nodded. "About time they started maintaining standards around here." Rebecca gestured toward the general admission line snaking around the building's corner. Over 200 people waited in the Chicago wind, their business attire no match for the October chill. "The general line moves quite quickly," she lied smoothly. "You'll be inside in no time." Damon's briefcase bore the subtle logo of WME, Washington Media Enterprises, but neither Rebecca nor Tyler recognized it. The letters were small, tasteful, designed for those who knew what to look for. His first-class luggage tag from earlier that day hung from his briefcase handle. The private jet designation PJ7749 was clearly visible, along with ORD to MDW routing that indicated local Chicago flights between airports. Maya's live stream was gaining traction. Her view count climbed 52,000, 55,000, 58,000. The hashtag #VIP Gatekeeper was beginning to trend. "This is discrimination, period," she said into her phone. "Look at this man's suit, his briefcase, his whole presentation, but they're treating him like—" A new security guard joined Tyler, then another. 3 uniformed men now formed a barrier between Damon and the platinum entrance. "Gentlemen," Damon said quietly, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding." Tyler crossed his arms. "No misunderstanding here. We're just maintaining the integrity of our platinum tier." Rebecca nodded approvingly. "Exactly. We have very strict standards for VIP access." The silver-haired executive laughed outright now. "This is what happens when you lower standards," he announced to his group. "Next thing you know, anyone will expect premium treatment." His words carried across the marble lobby. Other VIP guests turned to watch the spectacle. Some pulled out phones to record. Maya's comment section exploded with responses. Call the police! Sue the hotel! Finally, someone with standards. This is 2024. How is this happening? Good for security. Check everyone. Damon remained perfectly calm. He placed his briefcase on a nearby marble table, the expensive leather contrasting with the cold stone. His movements were deliberate, controlled. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to a specific contact. Yes, it's me, he said quietly into the device. It's time. Activate Protocol 7. The call lasted exactly 15 seconds. Rebecca and Tyler exchanged glances. Protocol 7 meant nothing to them, but something in Damon's tone suggested authority they couldn't quite place. Sir, Rebecca tried again, I'm sure we can resolve this quickly if you just— I understand completely, Damon interrupted, his voice carrying an edge of steel wrapped in silk. Integrity is everything in business. He began taking photos with his phone. Click. Tyler's name badge. Click. Rebecca's hotel identification. Click. The silver-haired executive's face as he posed mockingly for his friend's camera. Each photo was deliberate, methodical. Damon's movements had the precision of someone documenting evidence. The event board updated. 42 minutes remaining. Keynote speaker arrival in 30 minutes. Maya's live stream had attracted attention from local media. WCHI News Channel picked up her feed, sharing it across their social platforms. The story was spreading beyond her initial audience. In the general admission line, other guests of color watched the confrontation unfold. Some filmed with their own phones. Others looked away, recognizing the familiar sting of exclusion. Tyler stepped forward again. Sir, you need to either join the general line or leave the premises. Of course, Damon replied. I wouldn't want to violate any policies. He gathered his briefcase, straightening to his full height. At 6 feet tall, he commanded presence despite the humiliation. His next words were spoken softly, but they carried across the marble lobby. Gentlemen, ladies, I'll remember this evening. The digital board flickered again. VIP networking, 38 minutes remaining. The digital countdown continued its relentless march. 35 minutes remaining. Event organizers, prepare keynote presentation. Hotel manager James Sullivan received the call while reviewing catering arrangements in his office. Sir, we need you in the lobby. There's a situation with VIP access. Sullivan, a man who'd built his career on avoiding situations, hurried toward the platinum entrance. What he found made his stomach drop. A crowd of 50 people now surrounded the confrontation. Most held phones, streaming live or recording for later. The marble lobby echoed with whispered conversations and the occasional flash of camera lights. Maya's follower count had exploded. 62,000, 68,000, 75,000. Her live stream was being shared across Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. The hashtag #VIPGatekeeper had generated over 10,000 posts in 20 minutes. This is James Sullivan, hotel manager, he announced, inserting himself into the circle. His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to resolving problems quietly. What seems to be the issue here? Rebecca gestured at Damon as if he were an exhibit. This gentleman claims to have VIP access, but we're just maintaining our platinum standards. Sullivan studied Damon carefully. The suit was definitely custom. The watch was real Patek Philippe. He'd seen enough fakes to know the difference. The briefcase bore expensive Italian leather and subtle craftsmanship. But Sullivan had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. Rich people sometimes lent clothing, borrowed accessories. In Chicago's corporate world, perception often mattered more than reality. Sir, I do apologize for any confusion, Sullivan said to Damon. Perhaps you could show me some additional proof of your executive status. A business card, company identification, anything that might help us verify your credentials? The crowd murmured. Someone in the back shouted, Check his ID! Probably stolen. Damon set his briefcase on the marble table again. This time, Sullivan made a request that would haunt him for months afterward. "Sir, would you mind opening your briefcase, just so we can verify everything is in order?" The humiliation was complete. 50 people watched as Damon calmly unlocked his briefcase. The contents spilled onto the cold marble: legal documents, contracts, a tablet computer, business cards, and a leather portfolio. A woman in the crowd gasped. "Are you seriously making him empty his briefcase in public?" Maya held her phone steady, her voice urgent with disbelief. "Y'all, they're literally searching this man's personal belongings in front of everyone. This is 2024, in Chicago, at a corporate event." The silver-haired executive pushed closer to the table, his face flushed with alcohol and righteousness. "What's in the portfolio? Let's see some real proof." Sullivan hesitated. Even by his standards, this was excessive. But the crowd was watching, phones were recording, and backing down now would look weak. "Sir, if you could just—" Sullivan gestured toward the portfolio. Damon's hands remained steady as he opened the leather folder. Inside were contracts, legal documents, and correspondence. The letterheads were impressive: law firms, corporate partnerships, government contracts. But none of the watchers recognized the names. WME wasn't Apple or Google. Washington Media Enterprises didn't manufacture consumer products or run retail chains. It was an umbrella corporation managing media, advertising, and entertainment partnerships across the Midwest. Tyler smirked. "Never heard of any of these companies. Anyone can print fancy letterheads." The crowd grew bolder. Someone shouted, "What's his real job?" Another voice called out, "Probably works at Best Buy." Laughter rippled through the VIP section. The humiliation was public, recorded, and spreading across social media in real time. A third security guard, Marcus Thompson, arrived and surveyed the scene with satisfaction. "Finally, someone's doing their job properly," he announced to his colleagues. "Can't be too careful these days." The three guards now formed a complete wall around Damon. Their positioning was deliberate, intimidating. They blocked him from the VIP entrance while keeping him exposed to the crowd's scrutiny. Maya's comment section had become a battlefield. "This is disgusting discrimination." "Finally, someone checking credentials. Sue them all." "Good. Check everyone equally." "This is why I don't trust people like that." "Document everything. This is evidence." Two VIP guests, corporate executives from competing firms, watched with obvious entertainment. Richard Blackwood, a pharmaceutical CEO, shook his head dramatically. "This is exactly what happens when standards slip." His companion, Sandra Price, from a tech startup, nodded approvingly. "Thank God someone's maintaining proper exclusivity. These events lose their value when anyone can walk in." Their conversation was loud enough for nearby phones to capture. The comments would later become evidence in sensitivity training sessions across multiple corporations. Local news producer Janet Kim was monitoring social media from WCHI's newsroom when the hashtag caught her attention. She immediately dispatched a camera crew to the Meridian Hotel. "This is either a major discrimination story or a fraud case," she told her team. "Either way, we need to be there." The live stream had attracted attention from civil rights activists. Dr. Angela Williams, president of Chicago's NAACP chapter, shared Maya's feed with her 100,000 followers. The story was spreading beyond social media into organized advocacy networks. Meanwhile, Damon continued his methodical documentation process. He photographed each person who had spoken against him. He captured their faces, their name badges, their jewelry, their expressions of smug satisfaction. His phone buzzed with incoming messages. He glanced at the screen briefly, and something shifted in his expression. A small smile crossed his face, not humor, but recognition. Sullivan noticed the change. "Sir, is there something amusing about this situation?" "Not amusing," Damon replied quietly. "Educational." The event board updated again. 28 minutes remaining. Keynote speaker has arrived. Sullivan checked his watch nervously. The evening's main event was approaching, and he had a lobby full of guests documenting what looked like a major public relations disaster. "Look," Sullivan said, lowering his voice, "perhaps we can resolve this quietly. If you'll just join the general admission line, I can personally ensure you're admitted quickly." Damon gathered his belongings, carefully returning each item to his briefcase. His movements were precise, unhurried. When he finished, he looked directly at Sullivan. "Mr. Sullivan, I appreciate your position. You're trying to maintain order while managing a difficult situation." Sullivan nodded eagerly. "Exactly. We just want to be fair to everyone." "Fairness," Damon repeated softly. "An interesting concept." He pulled out his phone again, checking a specific app. His finger scrolled through what appeared to be stock prices. WCHI Media Group, $47.82. Meridian Hospitality Corp., $23.16. The numbers meant nothing to the watching crowd, but Damon's smile grew slightly wider. Rebecca stepped forward impatiently. "Sir, we really need you to make a decision. Join the general line or leave the premises." Tyler and his two fellow guards formed a tighter semicircle around Damon. The message was clear: comply or be removed. Maya's live stream had caught the attention of celebrities and activists. Retweets were flooding in from verified accounts. The story was going national. In the back of the crowd, a young black woman whispered to her friend, "I can't watch this anymore. It's too painful." Her friend nodded. "These are the same touching stories our grandparents lived through. Nothing's changed." But they kept watching, kept recording. These real-life stories needed witnesses. These black stories needed documentation. An elderly white man in an expensive suit pushed through the crowd. "What's all this commotion? Some people are trying to network professionally." He surveyed the scene with obvious disgust. "This is exactly why membership should be more exclusive. Let anyone in, and standards disappear." The comment was captured on multiple phones, added to the growing archive of evidence. Hotel security cameras captured every angle of the confrontation. The lobby's CCTV system, designed to protect guests, was now documenting what would become a landmark case study in corporate discrimination training. Damon checked his phone one final time. A text message had arrived. "Protocol 7 activated. Ready when you are." He looked up at Sullivan, Tyler, Rebecca, and the crowd of faces surrounding him. Phones pointed at him from every angle. Live streams carried his humiliation to thousands of viewers. "Gentlemen, ladies," he said, his voice carrying across the marble lobby, "I believe it's time for some clarity." The event board flickered. 22 minutes remaining. Keynote presentation begins shortly. Damon reached into his jacket pocket with deliberate calm. The crowd tensed, phones adjusting angles to capture whatever came next. He withdrew a simple smartphone and tapped the screen twice. The response was immediate. Sullivan's phone buzzed, then rang, then buzzed again with urgent notifications. "Mr. Sullivan," Damon said quietly, "I believe you have a call." Sullivan glanced at his phone screen and his face went white. The caller ID read, "Board Chairman William Hayes, urgent." I need to take this," Sullivan stammered, stepping away from the crowd. But Damon's voice stopped him. "Please, put it on speaker. I think everyone should hear this." The lobby fell silent except for the soft hum of heating systems and the distant sound of traffic. Maya adjusted her phone angle, her follower count now exceeding 85,000 viewers. Sullivan's hands shook as he answered. "Mr. Hayes, I'm in the middle of—" "James, what the hell is happening down there?" Hayes's voice boomed through the speaker, carrying the authority of someone who owned things. "I'm getting calls from board members, investors, even my goddamn wife about some live stream from your hotel." The crowd exchanged nervous glances. Several people began lowering their phones, sensing the shift in power dynamics. "Sir, there's been a small situation with VIP access. but we're handling it according to protocol. Protocol? Hayes's voice rose. James, do you know who Damon Washington is? Sullivan's eyes darted to Damon, who stood perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back. Sir, he claims to be some kind of executive, but we're just verifying. He doesn't claim to be anything, James. He is the CEO of Washington Media Enterprises. He owns 31% of our hotel chain's stock. He controls our largest corporate partnership. And according to my phone, he's being humiliated in your lobby while 85,000 people watch on social media. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler's face was drained of color. Rebecca took an involuntary step backward. The silver-haired executive who'd been mocking Damon suddenly found his shoes fascinating. Maya's live stream exploded with comments. Oh my God, he's the owner! This is amazing! Plot twist! They're so fired! Record everything! But Hayes wasn't finished. James, Mr. Washington was supposed to be tonight's keynote speaker. The same Mr. Washington whose company controls $12 million in annual contracts with our hotel chain. The same Mr. Washington who could destroy our stock price with a single press release. Sullivan's phone slipped in his sweaty palm. He nearly dropped it. Damon stepped forward, his voice carrying across the marble lobby with quiet authority. Mr. Hayes, this is Damon Washington. I'm here, and I can hear you clearly. Damon, I am mortified. Absolutely mortified. What these idiots have done is inexcusable. William, please. Let's handle this professionally. Damon's tone was measured, controlled. Mr. Sullivan was simply following what he believed to be proper procedures. But the damage was done. The crowd of VIP guests who had been filming and mocking Damon began a strategic retreat toward exits. Some deleted videos from their phones. Others tried to blend into the general admission crowd. Tyler attempted to disappear behind a marble pillar. Rebecca studied her clipboard as if it contained state secrets. Marcus Thompson, the third security guard, had already vanished entirely. Richard Blackwood, the pharmaceutical CEO who'd demanded proper exclusivity, was frantically texting someone. His earlier confidence had evaporated. Sandra Price, the tech startup executive, had gone pale. She was Googling Washington Media Enterprises on her phone, her expression growing more horrified with each search result. Maya's voice was breathless with excitement. Y'all, this is the best plot twist ever. This man they've been humiliating? He owns the hotel. He's the keynote speaker. This is about to get real. Hayes continued through the speaker, his voice carrying across the lobby. Damon, I'm driving there now. 20 minutes. Whatever you need, whatever you want done, consider it done. Sullivan found his voice, though it came out as a croak. Mr. Washington, we had no idea. There must have been some miscommunication. Damon held up a hand for silence. The gesture was small, but it commanded immediate attention. 50 people stopped talking, moving, even breathing loudly. Mr. Sullivan, there was no miscommunication. Your staff performed exactly as they were trained. They saw a black man claiming VIP access and assumed he didn't belong. The words hung in the air like smoke. Several people in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Now, Damon continued, I believe we have 18 minutes before my keynote address begins. I suggest we use that time productively. He turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and corporate decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, you've all been participants in an educational experience tonight. Some of you filmed this encounter. Some of you made comments. All of you witnessed what happened here. Maya's live stream had reached 91,000 viewers. Comments were flooding in so fast they blurred across the screen. This incident will be documented, analyzed, and used as a case study, not for lawsuits or revenge, but for education. Because what happened here tonight happens every day, in boardrooms, restaurants, country clubs, and corporate events across America. His eyes swept across the faces in the crowd. Some looked ashamed. Others are defiant. A few seemed genuinely confused about what they'd witnessed. Tyler stepped forward, his voice desperate. "Mr. Washington, sir, I was just doing my job. I didn't know—" "You didn't know because you didn't ask," Damon interrupted. "You saw the color of my skin and made assumptions. That's not security protocol, Mr. Tyler. That's biased." Rebecca attempted damage control. "Sir, we apologize for any misunderstanding. Perhaps we can comp your entire evening, arrange a special VIP experience." Damon's smile was as cold as winter in Chicago. "Ms. Carter, I don't need a comped evening. I need systemic change." He pulled out his phone and opened an email thread. The phone's screen was large enough for nearby people to read the subject line: Meridian Hotel Chain, Corporate Partnership Renewal, $12,000 annual contract. "This contract comes up for review next week," Damon announced. "Washington Media Enterprises has been considering whether to renew, reduce, or terminate our partnership with Meridian Hotels." Sullivan made a choking sound. "Tonight's events have been educational. They've shown me exactly what kind of training your staff receives, what kind of culture your management tolerates, and what kind of experience guests of color can expect at Meridian Properties." The crowd was completely silent now. Even Maya had stopped commenting, letting her phone record the moment. Damon checked his watch, the same Patek Philippe that Tyler had assumed was fake. 17 minutes until my keynote. I suggest we use that time to discuss how Meridian Hotels plans to address what happened here tonight." Hayes' voice crackled through Sullivan's phone speaker. "Damon, whatever you need, immediate terminations, policy changes, sensitivity training, public apologies, name it." But Damon held up his hand again. He wasn't done revealing his power. "William, before we discuss solutions, I think everyone should understand the full scope of tonight's educational experience." He tapped his phone screen and held it up. The display showed a stock trading app with real-time numbers. WCHI Media Group, $47.82, plus 0.23. Meridian Hospitality Corp., $23.16, 0.08. Washington Media Enterprises, private corporation. WCHI picked up Maya's live stream 20 minutes ago, Damon explained calmly. "They're the local news station that's been covering this story. Interesting company, WCHI. I happen to know their ownership structure quite well." His finger scrolled through the app, revealing more information. Washington Media Enterprises owns 42% of WCHI Media Group's stock. "We also control advertising relationships with 67% of Chicago's hospitality industry, including Meridian Hotels." The implications hit the crowd like a physical wave. Damon didn't just own part of the hotel chain. He controlled the news coverage. He controlled the advertising revenue that kept their competitors afloat. Maya's comment section exploded with corporate conspiracy theories and social justice celebration in equal measure. "So you see," Damon continued, "tonight's events aren't just about discrimination. They're about business, about reputation, about the financial consequences of bias in corporate America." Sullivan looked like he might faint. Rebecca had gone completely silent. Tyler was staring at his shoes as if they might offer escape from the situation. The VIP guests who remained in the lobby were frantically deleting social media posts, trying to undo their participation in the evening's events. But Damon wasn't finished. There was one more revelation, one final demonstration of the power they'd failed to recognize. "Oh, and one more thing," he said, his voice carrying just a hint of satisfaction. "The keynote address I'm scheduled to deliver tonight, it's titled Unconscious Bias in Corporate Leadership, a Case Study in Real-Time Decision-Making." The lobby erupted in whispers. Some people laughed nervously. Others looked genuinely sick. "I had planned to use hypothetical scenarios and statistical data," Damon continued. "But thanks to tonight's events, I now have a live case study, complete with video documentation, witness testimony, and real-time social media analysis." Maya's follower count hit 95,000. The hashtag #VIPGatekeeper was trending nationally. News vans were pulling up outside the hotel. The event board updated one final time. 15 minutes remaining. Keynote: Unconscious Bias in Corporate Leadership. Damon Washington, CEO, Washington Media Enterprises. Sullivan finally found his voice. Mr. Washington, what do you need from us? Damon closed his phone and straightened his tie. The same tie that Tyler had assumed marked him as someone who didn't belong. Mr. Sullivan, I need exactly what I've always needed. Respect, professionalism, and the same treatment you'd give any other CEO arriving for a keynote address. He paused, looking around the lobby at the faces that had watched his humiliation and were now witnessing his vindication. The question is, what are you going to do to ensure this never happens again? Mr. Washington, Sullivan began, his voice shaking. Please, let's discuss this privately, in my office, away from the cameras. Damon shook his head slowly. No, Mr. Sullivan. Privacy is what enabled tonight's events. Transparency is what will prevent them from happening again. Maya's live stream had become appointment viewing. Her follower count hit 102,000 and climbing. Comments flooded in from across the country. Celebrities were sharing the feed, and hashtag VIP Gatekeeper dominated social media trending lists. Everything we discuss will be public record, Damon continued, because systemic change requires public accountability. He walked to the marble table where his belongings had been scattered earlier and placed his phone on the surface, camera facing up. Protocol 7, as I mentioned earlier, involves comprehensive documentation, legal, financial, and social. Sullivan's face had gone from white to green. Sir, surely we can resolve this amicably, corporate to corporate. We are resolving this corporate to corporate, Damon replied, by addressing the precise financial implications of tonight's discrimination. He opened his briefcase and withdrew a tablet computer. The screen displayed a complex spreadsheet with numbers that made Sullivan's eyes widen. Washington Media Enterprises maintains partnerships with 18 hotel chains across 12 states. Annual combined value, $47 million. Meridian Hotels represents our largest single partnership at $12 million annually. Damon's finger scrolled through the data, each number representing real contracts, real money, real leverage. Our current Meridian contract includes Section 12.4, which addresses termination for cause. Discrimination against guests based on race, gender, religion, or national origin constitutes breach of contract. Rebecca found her voice, though it cracked with desperation. Mr. Washington, this was an isolated incident. Tyler was overzealous, but there was no malicious intent. Ms. Carter, Damon interrupted. Intent is irrelevant when measuring impact. The Illinois Civil Rights Act doesn't require malicious intent. It requires equal treatment under the law. He tapped the tablet screen, revealing another document. Section 5101 of the Illinois Human Rights Act specifically prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodation. Tonight's events, witnessed by over 100,000 social media viewers, constitute prima facie evidence of such discrimination. Tyler, who had been silent since the power reveal, finally spoke up. Sir, I swear I didn't know who you were. I was just following standard security procedures. Damon turned to face him directly. Mr. Tyler, what does your security manual say about racial profiling? Tyler stammered. It says we don't do that. Then why did you ask Rebecca to verify my credentials? Did you ask the silver-haired gentleman over there for additional proof of his executive status? Tyler's silence was answer enough. Damon continued, Did you ask Sandra Price to empty her purse for inspection? Did you require Richard Blackwood to provide corporate verification? The questions hung in the air like indictments. Each one highlighted the discriminatory nature of their actions. Sullivan attempted damage control. Mr. Washington, we're prepared to offer substantial compensation for tonight's incident. Perhaps we could discuss a settlement. Mr. Sullivan, I don't want your money. I want structural change. Damon's tablet displayed another screen, a detailed organizational chart of Meridian Hotels' corporate structure. Your chain employs 47,000 people across 312 properties. Tonight's incident suggests systematic failures in training, management oversight, and corporate culture. He highlighted specific sections of the chart: regional managers, training directors, human resources personnel, executive leadership, all failed to prevent what happened here tonight. Maya's comment section was experiencing what social media analysts would later call peak engagement. Comments flowed so rapidly that individual messages became indistinguishable. "Here's what Washington Media Enterprises requires for contract continuation," Damon announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to billion-dollar negotiations. He began listing demands with the precision of a corporate attorney. First, immediate termination of all personnel directly involved in tonight's discrimination. Tyler, Rebecca, and Marcus Thompson, who vanished when my identity was revealed. Sullivan nodded frantically. "Done. Absolutely done." Second, implementation of mandatory bias training for all staff, management, and executive personnel. Training to be completed within 60 days, with quarterly refresher sessions thereafter. Of course, yes. We can arrange that immediately. Third, establishment of a bias incident reporting system with third-party oversight. Anonymous reporting, independent investigation, and public quarterly reports on incidents and resolutions. Sullivan was taking notes on his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. Fourth, revision of all security, guest services, and management protocols to eliminate subjective judgment in guest verification processes. Clear, objective criteria that apply equally, regardless of race, gender, age, or appearance. Rebecca attempted to interject. "Sir, some discretion is necessary for security purposes." "Ms. Carter, you're no longer employed by Meridian Hotels as of this moment. Your input is neither requested nor relevant." The dismissal was swift, final, and completely justified. Rebecca's face crumpled as the reality of her termination hit home. Fifth, Damon continued, establishment of a diversity advisory board with real authority to review policies, investigate complaints, and implement changes. The board will include community leaders, civil rights attorneys, and subject matter experts. "Absolutely," Sullivan agreed. "Whatever you recommend." Sixth, public accountability measures. Monthly diversity reports published on Meridian's website, including demographic data on guest complaints, employee disciplinary actions, and training completion rates. Damon's demands were comprehensive, addressing not just tonight's incident but the systemic issues that enabled it. Seventh, financial commitment to community outreach and education. $100,000 annually to support civil rights organizations and bias prevention programs in each major market where Meridian operates. The numbers were adding up. Training costs, system implementation, advisory board expenses, community contributions. The financial impact would be substantial. Eighth, personal accountability for executive leadership. James Sullivan, your performance review will include specific diversity and inclusion metrics. Failure to meet targets will result in termination for cause. Sullivan's job was now directly tied to preventing future incidents of discrimination. These 8 requirements are non-negotiable conditions for contract renewal, Damon stated firmly. Failure to implement any of them will result in immediate termination of Washington Media Enterprises' partnership with Meridian Hotels. He pulled up another screen on his tablet showing financial projections. Termination would impact Meridian's annual revenue by approximately 8%, based on direct contracts and secondary advertising relationships. Current stock price suggests that would translate to a market cap reduction of roughly $63 million. The numbers were devastating. Meridian couldn't afford to lose Washington Media Enterprises as a partner. Additionally, Damon continued, WCHI News will be producing a documentary about tonight's events. The documentary will examine corporate bias training, legal compliance, and the financial consequences of discrimination in hospitality industries. Maya's live stream had become a cultural phenomenon. News outlets were picking up the story. Corporate diversity consultants were sharing the feed with clients as a real-time case study. The documentary will feature tonight's footage, expert interviews, and follow-up reporting on Meridian's compliance with the requirements I've outlined. Sullivan was sweating despite the lobby's air conditioning. Mr. Washington, these requirements are extensive. I'll need board approval for some of them. You'll have board approval, Damon replied confidently. William Hayes is currently in his car driving here to personally ensure compliance. He understands the financial implications of non-compliance. As if on cue, Sullivan's phone buzzed with a text from Hayes. Agree to everything. Legal is reviewing termination procedures for staff involved. The corporate machinery was already in motion. Lawyers were being awakened, PR firms were being contacted, and damage control efforts were beginning across multiple departments. Finally, Damon said, checking his watch, all of these changes will be implemented under the oversight of Washington Media Enterprises' legal department. We'll be monitoring compliance, reviewing reports, and conducting spot audits to ensure sustainable change. He closed his tablet and returned it to his briefcase. We have 7 minutes before my keynote address begins. I suggest you use that time to begin termination procedures for Tyler, Rebecca, and Marcus Thompson. Sullivan was already on his phone, speaking rapidly with human resources. The conversation was brief and decisive. Mr. Washington, Sullivan said after ending the call, all 3 security personnel have been terminated effective immediately. Their access has been revoked, and they've been escorted from the building. Damon nodded approvingly. Excellent. That's a solid first step toward systemic change. Maya's voice carried across the lobby as she addressed her audience. Y'all, this is how you create real change. Not with anger, not with lawsuits, but with leverage, accountability, and the power to demand better. The event board updated. 5 minutes remaining. Keynote presentation. Damon Washington, CEO, Washington Media Enterprises. Now, Mr. Sullivan, Damon said, straightening his tie. Shall we proceed to the auditorium? I have a speech to deliver about unconscious bias in corporate leadership. 3 months later, Maya Rodriguez stood in the same marble lobby of the Meridian Hotel, her phone capturing a very different scene. Y'all remember this place? She said to her camera, her follower count now exceeding 400,000. This is where VIP Gatekeeper started. But look at what's changed. Behind her, a diverse group of hotel staff moved efficiently through their duties. The Platinum entrance displayed a new sign. All guests welcome. Identity verification available upon request only. The Meridian Accountability Dashboard went live last week, Maya continued, showing her phone screen to the camera. Real numbers, updated monthly. Look at this data. The dashboard displayed impressive statistics. Bias incident reports. Down 87% chain-wide staff diversity training completion, 98.7% across all properties. Guest satisfaction scores from minority customers increased from 6.2 to 8.6. Management diversity up 340% in 6 months. Dr. Angela Williams, now chair of Meridian's Diversity Advisory Board, appeared in Maya's frame. The changes have been comprehensive, she explained. Not just policy changes, but cultural transformation. She gestured toward a wall display showing the monthly bias prevention report. Every incident is investigated independently. Every resolution is published. Every employee knows they're accountable for creating inclusive experiences. Maya moved through the lobby, documenting the transformation. Near the former VIP entrance, a new installation caught the light. A bronze plaque reading, Commitment to Equity. All guests deserve respect, dignity, and equal treatment. But the real change, Maya said, isn't just here in Chicago. Her camera captured a video conference screen in the hotel's business center. On it, managers from Meridian properties across 12 states participated in their weekly bias prevention training session. This program was developed by Washington Media Enterprises diversity consultants, explained the training facilitator. Every scenario we discuss is based on real incidents, real consequences, and real solutions. The training session featured testimonials from employees who had successfully intervened in potential bias situations. Each story demonstrated the practical application of the new protocols. James Sullivan, still hotel manager but now with diversity metrics built into his performance reviews, joined Maya's live stream. "Mr. Washington's approach saved our company," Sullivan admitted on camera. "Not just financially, but morally. We were failing our guests and our employees without even realizing it." He showed Maya a tablet displaying real-time diversity metrics for his property. Green numbers mean we're meeting targets. Yellow means improvement needed. Red means immediate intervention required. The system was comprehensive. Guest demographic data, complaint patterns, staff diversity ratios, training compliance rates, and customer satisfaction scores broken down by demographic categories. "The most powerful change," Sullivan continued, "is the reporting system. Employees and guests can report bias incidents anonymously through an app. Every report gets investigated within 48 hours. Maya's camera captured the app in action as Sullivan demonstrated its features. The interface was simple, secure, and designed to encourage reporting rather than discourage it. 3 months ago, this hotel was a national symbol of corporate discrimination, Maya told her audience. Today, it's a case study in how to create systematic change. The financial results spoke for themselves. Meridian's stock price had recovered and exceeded pre-incident levels. Guest satisfaction scores were at company highs. Employee retention had improved across all demographics. Most importantly, the changes had spread beyond Meridian hotels. 18 other hospitality companies had voluntarily implemented similar programs, recognizing the competitive advantage of authentic diversity initiatives. The Meridian model, as business schools now call it, had become the gold standard for addressing corporate bias. Harvard Business School featured the case study in their leadership curriculum. Washington Media Enterprises had renewed its contract with Meridian Hotels, expanding the partnership by an additional $4 million annually. The renewed contract included specific diversity clauses that became industry templates. "But here's what really matters," Maya said, ending her live stream from the exact spot where Damon had been humiliated. "These touching stories, these real-life stories about discrimination, they don't have to end in pain anymore." She gestured around the transformed lobby. "They can end in progress. They can end in accountability. They can end in change that makes sure the next person who walks through these doors gets treated with the respect they deserve." The event board, which once counted down to Damon's humiliation, now displayed a different message. Today's leadership training, creating inclusive excellence, all staff required. Damon Washington proved something that night, Maya concluded. The best revenge isn't getting mad, it's getting results. And sometimes, the most powerful way to fight discrimination is to make it too expensive for companies to ignore. As Maya ended her live stream, a young black executive approached the platinum entrance. The staff member greeting him was polite, professional, and welcoming. No additional verification was requested. No assumptions were made. The system worked exactly as designed. Today, Damon Washington's keynote address from that October evening has been viewed over 15 million times across multiple platforms. The speech, titled, "When Dignity Meets Data, Transforming Corporate Bias Through Strategic Accountability," became required viewing at business schools nationwide. But the real legacy extends far beyond viral videos and academic curricula. The Washington Protocol, the 8-point framework Damon demanded that night, has been adopted by over 200 corporations across 17 industries. From tech companies in Silicon Valley to financial firms on Wall Street, organizations recognized that bias isn't just morally wrong, it's financially destructive. Maya Rodriguez parlayed her live stream fame into a career as a corporate accountability journalist. Her Black Voices Speak channel now has 2.3 million subscribers, documenting life stories that matter, touching stories that inspire change, and real-life stories that prove individual actions can create systemic transformation. What happened that night wasn't just about one man's humiliation, Maya explains in her most recent documentary. It was about the power of preparation meeting the moment of truth. Damon Washington didn't just experience discrimination, he transformed it into education. The Meridian Hotel, where everything began, now hosts an annual Dignity in Leadership Conference. Executives from around the world gather to study how strategic thinking and calm power can create more change than anger and lawsuits. Dr. Angela Williams, who chairs the Diversity Advisory Board, often speaks to attendees about the evening's broader implications. These black stories, these experiences of exclusion and bias, they're not isolated incidents. They're systematic patterns that require systematic solutions. The conference features a permanent exhibit, from humiliation to transformation. Visitors can watch Maya's original live stream, read the 8 demands Damon made, and track the measurable outcomes that followed. Tyler, Rebecca, and Marcus Thompson, the 3 security personnel fired that night, all completed court-mandated bias training. Tyler now works as a diversity consultant, helping other security companies recognize and prevent discriminatory practices. His story became part of the training curriculum he once violated. I learned that night that intent doesn't matter if the impact causes harm, Tyler says in training videos. Mr. Washington taught me that accountability isn't punishment, it's education. But perhaps the most powerful aftermath is the simplest. The countless black executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals who now walk into corporate spaces without facing the humiliation Damon experienced. The system worked. Data drove decisions. Accountability created change. This story teaches us something fundamental, Damon Washington said in a recent interview. The most effective response to discrimination isn't always confrontation. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes it's patience. Sometimes it's the quiet power of strategic thinking. Change doesn't come from getting mad. It comes from getting results. Have you witnessed discrimination in corporate spaces? Have you experienced the sting of being judged by appearance rather than capability? Share your touching stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter. Your voice creates change. Hit subscribe to the Black Voices Speak channel for more real-life stories that prove ordinary people can create extraordinary transformation. Because the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better. Share this video if you believe in accountability over anger, strategy over satisfaction, and systemic change over temporary victories. Together we can build a world where competence speaks louder than prejudice, where data drives decisions, and where every person who walks through corporate doors gets treated with the dignity they deserve. The power to change begins with your story. What's yours?